Hello and welcome to Fintech Impact. I'm your host, Jason Pereira. Today on the show, I have Lil Roberts, CEO of Xendoo. Xendoo is an online accounting firm that's looking to modernize and simplify the process of accounting for small businesses in America. And with that, here's my interview with Lil. Hello, Lil. How you doing?
Doing great. Thanks, Jason. Thanks for having us on.
No, thanks for taking the time. So Lil Roberts, CEO of Xendoo. Tell us about Xendoo.
Xendoo is an online bookkeeping and accounting platform, technology platform that we've wrapped around Xero and QuickBooks. And we exist to help small business owners have financial peace of mind.
Excellent. So we're going to dive into that. We've had a couple of similar plays in the past, but everybody does things differently. And I'm very curious to see how you do things differently. But before we get there, tell me about what was the impetus for the creation of Xendoo.
I felt the pain firsthand, Jason. So serial.
There must be a better way.
You got it. That is so it, right? Serial entrepreneur. I'm not an accountant. I'm not a CPA. I just was baffled by why this particular industry didn't keep up with technology and the speed of business as technology, changed the way that we do business and every way that we do it.
Excellent. So, all right, you discovered there was a problem. You thought there had to be a better way. Tell me about the journey that led to the creation of Xendoo in terms of the actual bit nuts and bolts. You went off to investigate, and what did you find?
Yeah, so what happened was my last business was in the manufacturing space, and I exited it in 2015. And it had been a pain point throughout, as I mentioned, all the businesses. And one of the things that struck me about this industry is that the price always went up. As they saw that you had more money in your business, it was like the black box, kind of like the legal industry too, right? And so the price would go up, but the service wouldn't change. You weren't getting anything better or more efficient. And then as the world was moving, you still didn't have transparency. You didn't have speed. And so I'm like, okay. Well, after I exited that business, I said, what am I passionate about? I'm passionate about small business owners. I'm passionate about technology, and I want to scale a business in technology. And so I went looking for analog industries that I was familiar with problems in those industries. And when I did my research on the accounting industry, I was just amazed. And this is 2015, 2016. I was amazed that nobody was tackling this problem at that time. Now, fast forward to today, and we're an early mover in the space tackling this problem, but now there's a lot of people that have identified it and are tackling the problem, all a little bit different and all going after a little bit different audience. But for us, it was about applying technology and helping a small business owner have the advantages that large corporations have. Why do large corporations have advantages when it comes to accounting and finance and understanding their numbers? Because they can afford to have CFOs and pay for, big accounting teams. And on the small business side, they end up paying more in taxes when they don't need to, and they don't understand the product of money.
I've often said it before, no one gets into business to do their bookkeeping, right? Unless you're a bookkeeping business, right? Like the reality is that bookkeeping and accounting and tax filings are all seen as necessary evils, right? And I think because of that, the bar for what's considered acceptable is probably pathetically low for a very long time. And it's, I often, the litmus test for a lot of businesses I deal with my day job, and even other advisors who come to me for help is, when they say I want to improve my business or want to do X, Y, Z and grow and all this other stuff. My first question is, okay, let's just look at some baseline structures. How often you look at your books? And the default answer is a look of borderline shame, saying, when my accountant hands me the tax return, and they're like, is that wrong? And my response is typically, yeah, I'm pretty sure Tim Cook does the same thing. No. And I think, and it's trying to, a lot of times even with business owners, it's a matter of flipping their mindset from it being a necessary evil to being a strategic asset, right? Like if you don't know the numbers of your business, you're just asking for trouble. And I've never seen a business scale to any large degree of success where the business owner didn't become obsessed with the numbers. But the challenge is getting the numbers, right?
So well said. We should put you on a video on ours, because that is the challenge. The business owners do want their numbers, and it's not all business owners that want them, but the ones that do, they couldn't get them in a timely way out of the industry. So typically, as you know, the industry, the month ends, right? And then in the traditional accounting industry, you will be lucky if you get them before the end of the following month. Well, you know what? You can't run your business that way. You need to be able to get those numbers to me within 5 business days at the end of the month. So you say, well, what's a key differentiator with us? There's a lot of them, but for the customer experience, 65% of our customers have their numbers for the prior month within the 5th business day of the following month. And the reason why it's 65% and not 100% is that typically you got to chase the small business owner to get a couple of answers, right? And if more of them give us answers quicker, we're working on helping them to see the benefits of that. We would publish even more than that. And none of the competitors in the online space do that, let alone the traditional. When we talk about competition, you may say to me, well, Lil, who's your competition? All of us in the online space, we account for less than 1% of the market size. The real competition is the traditional accountants and the traditional CPAs. And, it always amuses me when people will compare us to some of our other online fellow people that are changing the industry. They're not the competition. There's such a big market. Competition's the traditional.
They're your jogging buddies. They're the ones who are running next to you as you're changing stuff, right? Like, it's
100%.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's, it also just speaks to people's mentality. I mean, I've often been told, and I often say, like, I've got a very big abundance mindset, and I'm not concerned about the person doing the exact same thing I'm doing. I'm concerned about all the people doing something different that I'm not basically directly benefiting from, and I can leverage what I'm doing to eventually get there and do what I should and take their market share. That should be the real goal, not the people who are also the people evolving in industry are never really in competition with each other, like you said. They're all in cahoots to change the industry.
100%. We're aligned. 100%, Jason. Yeah. And I think that we help each other because we're helping to bring more awareness to the marketplace and to make it acceptable. Because, and look, COVID, well, I'm sure we're going to chat a little bit about COVID, even though that we're going to be published after. But, COVID is going to impact the fintech industry in a huge way. It already has. But it's impacting small business owners. It's impacting every industry.
Published after, you're very optimistic. We'll see when this publishes. So yeah, I mean, so much to digest here. So before we get into the actual, nuts and bolts of how you do things, I mean, I think it's important that what you said right there is usually valuable. The fact that you're helping each other because you're raising awareness, right? It doesn't have to be the old-fashioned way. It does not have to be the once-a-year meeting or the I'm getting limited service. And without ongoing engagement, I don't believe on a regular basis I don't believe there's any way that an accountant can truly, or bookkeeper can truly provide value to customers. Like at the end of the day, I often, as a financial advisor, people, especially with business owners, when they're not used to dealing with someone who works at my level, the first question they'll often have is, well, I already have an accountant, so like, do I need you? And my response is, I think you're misunderstanding what the accountant's job is. The accountant's job is to file your taxes. You may think it's for you to pay less tax, and yeah, they get some of that done, but a lot of the, I won't say exotic, but a lot of the structural planning that comes into place is often driven by people in my sphere. So that's the average accountant's experience. There are plenty of good accountants who do what I'm talking about too, but it's a really a low bar of understanding for what people should expect, right? It really is, right? It's like my books need to be done, my taxes need to be filed, not, I need you to actually do this on a regular basis so that I can track KPIs that you helped me develop, so that I can take information and change my business so I can make it more profitable and drive sales forward. Like, you don't hear that as the default answer.
Yeah, so true. So you hit on a couple of things. It's interesting that, the comment that you said about that most people will look at their books when they're filing taxes. And unfortunately, that's when they're doing their tax planning. So what a lot of people don't understand is
it's too late.
One of the examples I like to give is, so say you're a pizza owner, right? And it's October and your pizza oven's on the brink, and a new pizza oven's $50,000, and you're thinking, well, do I repair this one for a couple thousand? Do I buy a new one? If you're somebody that has your books done every month and have them done in a tax ready lens as to what your tax savings will be, if you do that, Then, when you call the accountant to say, hey, my pizza oven's on the blink, what should I do? Do I have money to buy a new one? Your accountant should be able to say to you, well, you know what? You have $100,000 in profit. And so you're going to be paying roughly $30,000 in taxes, and a new pizza oven's 50, and you're going to be able to use Section 179. So $16,000 that you would be paying of that $30,000 to the tax man, you can use and take it from your right pocket and put it to your left pocket. And now it's an investment in your business. But no, they wait until March when it's too late. And hey, you got to pay that much money.
Well, and it's really interesting that people, I'll call that the conventional accounting experience, which is I show up, I drop off a bunch of stuff, I come back later, I get my tax bill, and then I get their bill, and I get angry. Like that's so often what people complain about. It's like, well, you hired someone to be a filer. You didn't hire someone to be a strategic partner, right?
Yeah.
And now you're understanding the difference. We often say all the time. Like I have a friend who's an accountant, and she gets really, really pissed off or nervous when a client will say to her, like, "Oh, here's all my stuff. Now do your magic." Right? Like, I'm sorry, no, you don't understand. The magic does not happen after the year is over. The magic happens through the year, right? Yeah. Otherwise, it's like, oh, I want to do, it's like, I always love in my business where it's like, well, I want to limit these tax bills. So if we set that foundation you talked about, it's like, it's December 15th. No, we can't set up the foundation. We have to,
that ship had sailed. Well, well said. Like, look, for those listening, they can't see our expressions, but I shuddered when you said you drop off your stuff.
Oh, yeah.
That day is over, because how many accountants and bookkeepers have fat-fingered numbers? I can't tell you how many times we have seen where we've amended tax returns and we have seen where somebody transposed numbers. So we don't deal with that at all. It is all digital. You don't want somebody to be rekeying numbers in.
Well, I mean, first off, who wants that job? Secondly, like, there's this little thing called data aggregation that people cracked the nut on over 10 years ago, probably like closer to almost getting close to 20 years ago now, that you push a button and all that stuff gets pulled from your bank accounts. So who ain't got like these, I contrast. It's like one of these things where you win a war by the plans you put in place before the war starts, not after the fact. Right. Yep. And, I'll contrast this to a auditing experience. Right. So every now and then my tax authority comes to me and says, hey, we want details on this expense. Right. Now, to the average person who drops off a bag full of receipts to their accountant, it's like, okay, good luck finding that sheet, that one receipt and that one sheet of paper. Right. Yeah. To people who use, something similar to your platform, which I also use something similar myself. It's, oh, you want that transaction from that date? Okay, let me just go to that transaction from that date, and here's the receipt, and here it is. And nothing makes a tax authority disappear faster than someone who is organized, because they know there's no low-hanging fruit there. Like, you're not going to get anything on those people.
That's right. And so they don't want to waste their time. They're going to go find the guy or the girl.
Yeah, they got to fill they got to fill their quotas that don't actually exist, right? Like that's.
Yeah. I love it. We speak the same language. So true.
Yeah. So we've talked about a lot of the benefits, and we're going to for sure dive into those a little bit more later. But let's talk about the different softwares you use to support this. I want to know basically like what's in that tech stack, and what, why did you choose those? Like, what specifically were you looking for from those tools?
Perfect. So we have a proprietary platform that we started writing at the end of 2016. It's built on Node.js with Vue. We use Snowflake for our data warehouse. You've probably been watching.
Which is a name that everyone's familiar with now after an IPO, right? Like,
and well-deserved, because I got to tell you, they are, unbelievable in how fast you can stand it up and how fast you can take it.
I've heard as much. Yeah.
Yeah. So on the proprietary side, it's our own platform. What we did is we wrapped around best in class. So we wrapped around Xero and QuickBooks. And initially it was Xero, Xero. And the reason being is that we wanted a modern software tool. So, a lot of people say, well, why didn't you write your own, GL, PL platform? And Bench did that, right? Because the small business owner wants to know that they can take that software with them if something happens in their business, or that they want to go, bring somebody in-house. Look, sometimes businesses grow so big that they need to bring somebody in-house and have that. So we didn't do QuickBooks at first because QuickBooks doesn't play nicely in their own sandbox between, QuickBooks Online and desktop. But we recently added QuickBooks, and we're very happy we did. So those two platforms, best in class in that category. And then through those, our customers will use A2X. For payroll, it's Gusto, who we partnered with, and then a multitude of other, 800 different applications depending on the industry of our customer. So we have a mobile app that is ours. And so a customer logs in when they're our customer, they can go through the desktop for the portal to get to their numbers. They can log in on the mobile app. So to give you an example of the experience, Jason, you go to the bank, right? And you need to get a loan as a small business owner. And the first thing the banker says to you is, we need the last 3 months P&Ls and last 2 years of tax returns. So fear comes over the face of the small business owner for two reasons. One, they have no idea if they ever did do those documents, where they may have put them. And then the second piece of it is if where most of them don't do a monthly P&L, they think, oh my God, on a good day, my CPA doesn't call me back. It's usually 2 weeks. I need this loan now. And how am I going to get these documents? So for us, we solve that problem through the mobile app and the desktop portal. They have these documents as a repository at their fingertips all the time. So we produce those documents for them, and they're sitting in there. When they go to the bank, our customers have told us they're sitting across from the banker. They open up the mobile app, and they just from there can email it to the banker.
Yeah, and as someone who's had that very experience of they're sitting there and they're talking and they see me on my phone just typing away, thinking I'm ignoring them and being rude. And I'm like, okay, what else do you need? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, fine. And then click, boom, and I put the phone down. It's like, check your inbox. And it's like, first off, the respect expression is wow. Secondly, it's like, I'm relieved because I literally have nothing else to do now. And, there is no substitute for being organized, right? When you're properly organized as a business and everything's where it should be, and everybody's like, oh, I can't, I'm being audited. I can't believe the amount of time I got to spend chasing down all this stuff. No. The ounce of prevention was less painful than the pound of cure, right? And it's so you're now paying the price for all the times you didn't do the other stuff.
And right. So well said. So how about the fact that now you have more time to work on your business and to truly grow your business, right? And that's what, all of us as business owners and entrepreneurs, that's what we want to do. We're here to create businesses. We don't want to be slowed down by the fact that maybe they've neglected their books and cost them time, cost them opportunity, cost them money.
Yep. Agreed. I mean, it's turning the entire burden into a strength, right? It's that flip. It's funny. You mentioned a number of companies who've been on the show before. You have, Xero and Intuit through QuickBooks and Bench as well. And it's interesting going back to the entire, you worked off, what were best in class platforms for accounting versus building your own. I think there's definite merits to both strategies, right? Like what you said, the portability of data is usually valuable. The customization though, there's also your own platform. There's a lot more you can do with that. You're not behooved to someone else's control. But I think at the end of the day, they both matter, but let's not forget the old Clayton Christensen adage about not, buying 3/4-inch drill bits. They're buying 3/4-inch holes. At the end of the day, we got to solve the problem. What you're all doing, whether using best in class or your own proprietary one, is solving the problem. And forever, regardless of that choice, people are going to be happy with what that experience looks like. So good on you. So, I mean, that's a number. Now, how much fun are you having making these things play with each other nicely?
Well, I'm having a lot of fun. We'll have to ask my product team how much fun they're having, but you're right. I got to tell you, if we would have started out with QuickBooks in 2017, we wouldn't have as much fun as connecting to QuickBooks now, because I think that the market is demanding that they have to open up, they have to open up the API there, and that they have to let companies like ours be able to play nicely with them. So it's great. It's great. When you look at what we're doing, there was a great article written by Sam Lesson, who was early Facebooker, but also had, actually Facebook bought a company that he had. He was at Harvard with Zuckerberg. And Sam wrote an article about the knowledge work cloud. And what we've built is really based around that theory. We had already had it built before I saw that article. I read it, late 18. But our software does data-driven prioritization, its workflow, and its measurement about burn down. And so through that, it allows us to 5x the traditional bookkeeper. So a traditional bookkeeper will work on somebody's books, and they'll do maybe 25 customers a month. Our bookkeepers can do 80 customers. What does that do for the small business owner? It gives them transparency about pricing. So we can, the economy of scale, the speed, the productivity, and the margin that we can operate at, the traditional industries, CPAs and bookkeepers and accountants, they can't compete because they can't deliver for the pricing. And then by us doing that, we're given transparency to the small business owner, for one, about pricing. So we've gotten rid of the black box. Two, about them having the visibility to their numbers to have a better experience on building their business.
Yeah, I mean, it's if COVID has taught everybody nothing, is that failure to digitize is going to cost you in more ways than you can count. And I think, this greater embracing of technology, which frankly you should have been doing beforehand, is only going to get greater. And you spoke to one of the true benefits, which is scalability, right? Like the reality is that if you're the kind of old bookkeeper who took the credit card statement and manually entered in everything over and over, you just rolled your eyes, and I rolled my eyes too, because who in God's name wants that job? Like I don't understand that. Versus push a button, gets pulled from the bank account, and then, oh, look, the receipt's already in there. Is this the same receipt? Yes, 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 yes. Like, the speed at which you do this stuff. I mean, I started off doing my own booking from my business when we first started, utilizing Xero as a platform. And like, everybody's like, oh my God, you do your own bookkeeping? Like, that's a ridiculous waste of time. I'm like, I don't understand what you're talking about. It takes me less than 5 minutes a day, right? Like 5 minutes. Right. Like this, it's not that hard. I mean, that said, though, I was happy to eventually delegate that off as they got more complex. But initially, like, really, like, who wants the old world? It just blows my mind. So tell me about the general consumer feedback when they move from, let's call it the old school to the new school. What are you hearing back from satisfied customers, or dissatisfied, if you want to go that way?
Yeah. Well, probably my favorite testimonial from one of our customers. There was a show that used to be on TV called Cheaters.com, or Cheaters, before he went to digital. Have you ever heard of it? They follow people around and expose if they're cheating, right? And then he went to a digital platform, so it's Cheaters.com, and I think it was Cary Grant's, great grandson or something like that, or grandson who was the host. So he wrote unsolicited, wrote a testimonial saying that what we're doing is one small step for small business owner mankind. That
small step for, what? It would only be better if it was Buzz Aldrin's grandkid. That's all I'm saying.
You know what? I'm with you. And he posted it right around when Apollo 11's anniversary was. And so we've taken it off his hands. He saves a ton of money on taxes. He loves it. And so the customers are very happy. They know that they have their numbers. Not all of them look at the financials monthly, right? They say, look, I just want to know I'm compliant and that they're there when I need them, and they're there for the bank. But they love the fact that it's taken care of, and they don't have to, 10 months down the road, try to figure out what happened 10 months prior. And they love the easeability. They love the fact that, it's all at the palm of their hand 24/7. They text with us. They live chat with us. They phone call or email. We work in the method that they like to communicate, and they love that.
Excellent. So before we wrap up, there's 3 questions I'd like to ask everybody. We end on a positive note. First one is, if you had one wish for something that you could change in your company or in the industry as a whole, what would it be?
So if we look at the accounting industry, I would want to change and have transparency and financial literacy for small business owners.
Yeah.
And compassion.
Compassion from who? Are we talking about tax authorities? Or are we talking about?
Well, all of it. But, for some reason, the traditional CPA industry, Jason, doesn't have compassion for small business owners. So, we do. We love small business. Yeah. And I think that a lot of it is because, I've had small businesses my whole life. And the small business owners is up at 3 a.m. worried about their numbers. So I think that we need to give them the tools and for them to have that financial discipline.
I mean, I kind of get it. I mean, to date, the biggest companies that hire the most people when they graduate with their CPAs or graduate towards their CPAs are the big accounting firms, right? And everybody pays their dues in forced labor camps that are like again, when people say, I have my CPA, I'm like, oh, what slavery is like then, because it is just brutal the work they put them through. Yeah. Not to diminish the horror of slavery, but just as a corollary, they still do that. And it's, those firms are still largely concerned with the Fortune 500s and Fortune 1000s, whatever you want to go down, because, hey, they pay really well. They typically have sophisticated people working internally that they can speak the language to. And, the education piece really isn't there, right? Like, except for some of the complex stuff, right? So it's like, yeah, you're talking to people on the same level to a large degree. When you move to small business, it's a completely different story. You have that widget maker who got into business because he wanted to make widgets, right? Like, yeah, you have the person providing a personal service online because she wanted to work from home, whatever it was, right? These people did not get into business. They do not have the accounting background. They do not have the sophistication of tax planning. And yes, they may be just not numbers people, right? So I think you're right. There's not necessarily enough compassion for the fact that these people are very different than dealing with people with Fortune 500s.
Yep, but they're the backbone of the country, right? They're the backbone of economies, whatever country you're in, they are the backbone. And so why wouldn't we want to help them so they can employ more people?
100%. So second question I have for you is, what's been the biggest challenge in getting to where you are today?
It would be the flywheel, right? So when you're a tech startup to scale, it's in the early days, it's so hard to move that flywheel to where you get to scale. So when you look at the company, I think that we have great product market fit. It is about getting the flywheel moving. You are building everything from scratch, right? All of your processes from scratch. And it's hard, right? Startups are hard.
That they are. And the final question for you is, what excites you about what it is you're doing that gets you up every morning to keep on fighting the good fight and charging on?
That we're part of helping small business owners, and that we're reshaping an industry. We're changing an industry, and we're making it a level playing field. No more black box on pricing. No more that you don't have, that it doesn't run at the speed of business. And I'm thrilled. I get it. I love it. I work, 12, 14-hour days, and I love what I'm doing. I can't believe that I get to come do this every day.
There you go. As people always tell me that I work too hard, which is probably true. The response is always, I really don't see it as work.
Yeah. 100%.
Exactly. If you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life, is the old saying, right? So, yeah. Lil, thank you so much for this. I really appreciate it, and basically hope you nothing but the best of success, because your success is typically the success of other businesses. So, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Great being with you. Thanks so much, Jason.
Take care.
Bye.
So that was my interview with Lil Roberts of Xendoo. I hope you enjoyed that. And in case you haven't noticed, there's a bit of a theme around accounting in this podcast every time I touch it, and it's that the old-fashioned way just doesn't work, not when you're used to the new world of how things get done. So if you're listening to this and you're still relying upon old school accounting and you're not getting the proper digital service that you deserve to basically leverage and get proper intelligence on your business, please make that change, because you're only going to benefit from it in the long run. As always, if you enjoyed this podcast, please leave a review on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, take care.
This podcast was brought to you by Woodgate Financial, an award-winning financial planning firm catering to high net worth individuals and their families. To learn more, go to woodgate.com. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play, or find more episodes at fintechimpact.co.